Good morning, preppers. Welcome to the channel. On Goshen Prepping, we always stress to be prepared. Stress through checklist of having items, stress through actions of things you need to do to be ready for cataclysmic situations. Of course, we're always worried about a lot of things like man-made stuff, economic collapse, etc. But natural disasters are just as bad, if not worse sometimes. And if you've ever been in those kind of situations, which I have in a bunch, military and otherwise too, you almost feel like you're on another planet, and you really feel like nobody's coming to help because, scarily enough, nobody is coming to help in a lot of those situations. We think the government's going to help you with this, and they're nowhere to be seen. I've had this happen many times. All right, so time is short. I want you to be ready. I want you to be prepared for these. Of course, economic collapse can be far worse than what I'm about to read you, but we have a husband and wife follower of the channel, and they sent me a couple emails from Florida. Let's jump right into it. My husband and I live in Florida, and our home endured 12 hours of the hurricane. We had evacuated, but many of our neighbors stayed. Thankfully, we did not get the storm surge they anticipated, and they had minimal damage. That's good. But sometimes the damage is not the only thing you really have to worry about, as we'll see. They're without power, no water, no cell service, no internet. There's no gasoline or propane in the area. When stations open, state troopers direct miles and miles of lines of traffic. People wait 6 to 7 hours just for water, and people are desperate. Sounds like a third world country, doesn't it? There are few functional traffic lights, and people don't treat the intersections as four-way stops. It's funny how things collapse. People don't really follow rules anymore. There's no 911 service. We are on our own. There's that sentence right there. Neighbors' generators are making the choice of gas for the car or the generator. Without cell service, we're isolated and cannot connect with loved ones or receive county emergency alerts. That's scary too. I found your video some time ago and have done what I thought was decent prepping. I appreciate how you describe what I mentioned above about your health and knowing your neighbors and having a plan. I will say, though, that nothing could have prepared me for the mental and emotional strain. That is it right there. And the realization that it's every man for himself because few people prepare. Stores that open with generators have no fresh food on empty shelves. You have to have the means to protect yourself. Gas cans are liquid gold. The darkness of no lights is disorienting. Streets we drive daily now seem unfamiliar. No street or stop signs remain standing. We fear looting right now, and neighbors are on the watch for each other. Interesting. A lot of things we talk about as far as that goes. We continue. Not having water has been the hardest for me. No bathing, no washing towels. For when my cat got sick, no washing dishes. I have plenty of bottled water, but did not prepare for items requiring larger quantities of water because storage space is an issue. I think that I should have thought this through in my plans. We have mental fog from the strain. We can't remember where our emergency cook stove is or the portable water filters that we stored in the garage. We're very fortunate while others are not. It's amazing, even though with their limited preps they said they did, they're actually fortunate compared to others. I do also feel that I'm fortunate to have found you and your lovely family because even through my preparations seem minimal today, in the midst of the crisis at least, I had listened and had done something. A lot of people don't. I have food and water to drink, and both propane and charcoal grills and solar charged power packs to charge our phones and run USB fans and charge flashlights. USB fans are so nice because there's nothing like trying to sleep in heat. I'm better off than many had I chosen to stay in the house. And now I know what to expect and can make my preparations even better when I move. I would add that my husband and I have talked a lot this week about the threats we have been hearing of an internet blackout and how we're living that now. Our friends and neighbors have all stated part of the disorientation is how frustrating it is not to have any cell service. People are parking on bridges and sides of roads and parking lots wherever a signal can be found. We had a relative find our Airbnb because we couldn't search for a shelter. That's something I didn't put in here. I kind of cut out some of the email because there's a lot of stuff on here. But they actually had a relative get an Airbnb for them to get out of their house. That way, actually had some stuff. Let's see. You receive 50 text messages all at once and out of order, and when you get into a signal area. We take for granted having connection information at our fingertips and are lost when it's not there. I always say that. Try to get a lot of books, guys, for helping prepare. A widespread internet blackout would truly cause chaos. I also think that some kind of notebook or checklist would be good. We always trust to have checklists for this stuff. They relied on remembering what to take with them and we would call where to find all the supplies. But after we decided to leave, it was all a rush. So that's the whole thing, guys. Checklists are so key for this. That's why we stress that. Then we returned seeing how different everything looked and struggling to get through roads and worrying was so taxing we could not remember anything once home. I'm sure you mentioned this. Yes, I've mentioned this so many times that having this stuff, standard operating procedures to read through when the time comes helps so much. But I was focused on having supplies versus organization, and you need both. You definitely need both. And that's one of the things people say. They actually, they're like, I don't have the money to prep. Yes, you do. You can actually work on organization prep and plan prep. It's not all just about stockpiling food. We have friends who chose to remain in their house, and living like a pioneer is not for the weak. That's for sure. She said she was fine doing great running the generator for a bit each day, have a fridge, no problem not showering, flushing toilets with buckets of pool water. Then 2 days later, she is freaking out, and her poor husband had to go sit in a gas line for 4 hours to fill the empty cans for the generator. Someone who's addicted to their phone, as she is, in my opinion, can only take so much of the dark and silence for days on end. We chatted with him on the phone while he was in line, and we both rarely had a signal, and we could hear the strain in his voice. We took them ice and offered to take their cans up to Sarasota to fill them up. He was better off driving north round trip 2 hours than wasting 4 hours close to home in line. But the mental strain of not knowing where the station is open or not did not allow for that reasoning. That is for sure. Disorientation, it's weird because just waiting in a line for 2 hours, seeing the chaos of people waiting in line for gas, always on edge, think somebody's going to try to loot you and mug you, which is happening, by the way, I've read that on the news, is absolutely exhausting. All right, last page. Lastly, I would add that being vigilant of your surroundings and mindful of your own health, which you talk about at length, is so important. Many vendors can only take cash without power. People may assume you have large amounts of cash on you. I can see gas cans and truck beds on roofs of cars, liquid gold, and there's a need to be careful. Looters could come into your home or business. People are desperate for tarps and drinking water. As for health, there is a lot of cleanup and lack of sleep and dehydration. Don't overdo it. Be careful of picking up heavier, sharp objects and walking on glass. Snakes and animals are looking for food too. There's no 911 coming if you get hurt or stressed or have a heart attack, and that realization could be too late. We have a little survivor's guilt as we're able to be comfortable right now when so many others cannot be. They described this perfectly, and I've been in these situations before, and it really is. It's almost like you go down a street where you're used to, where your neighbor's lights are on, maybe neighbors outside mowing their lawn or sitting in a chair, and the cars in the driveway and everything, and then this hits. And even just for the fact that the lights are off, but coupled with, in this situation, trees are down, nobody's outside. If it is, they're all on edge. It's almost like stepping on the moon, because you get into a situation where you get so used to seeing your life the way it is, but suddenly your home, the place that you feel comfortable with most, the place that you can truly relax, no longer becomes familiar to you. Coupled with no gas, no water, no phone, no lights, no internet, you can't even call someone, and people are running out of gas. People are getting more and more desperate. This is a short-term situation. Granted, this was a huge hurricane, devastating, but this is short-term. This is only one part of Florida. The rest of the country is coming to the aid. What happens when all of this happens everywhere? And thinking that nobody's coming to your aid. Could you imagine this becoming a more permanent thing? Like, for example, for an EMP? Picture that exact same situation that they're going through. But now we're looking at not having power for a year after an EMP. What are you going to do? How are you going to prepare? And I said to them, do you mind if I actually, of course, keep this anonymous? Can I share this on the channel? Because these are the kind of things I stress so much that we need to prepare for. And look, some parts of Florida, they did prepare and they didn't get hit. So now guess what? They have the extra water, they have the extra food, they have all those other things now that they can use at their will. But even worse, think about the people who did get hit by the hurricane and were not prepared. And that is by far the majority of people. People walk around with a dazed look of saying, everything's going to be fine. I never have to prepare. And when it does hit, suddenly all those neighbors of yours who are your best buds are going to turn possibly against you. If it's like an EMP, they're going to be looking for food, and they know you've got some. Okay, they're going to be looking for gas, and you have a generator, not even a solar generator, and there's going to be a lot of scared people. So like I even said to, and she mentioned in this letter, make sure you really get in contact with your neighbors, because having contact with them, you're going to become the leader in that neighborhood because you're the one that actually has been preparing the whole time. Oh, sure, you were nuts until the time happened. But now, as they mentioned, they were actually minimally prepared after watching our videos, and they're still light years ahead of their neighbors. Scary, scary times are coming. We're looking at a Great Depression. We're looking at probably World War III. Could be an EMP attack on the United States. We have no idea. So don't put your head in the sand. Don't pretend nothing's going to happen, because if so, you're going to be one left in the dark, and you're going to be the one that's going to be desperate. All right, use this as a learning lesson and be prepared.